Well, it's still rainy Sunday, so I'm going to get some of my baking done. It's rhubarb season. There is so much rhubarb. So I have a recipe for strawberry rhubarb crumbles. The reason I'm making it is I can cut it up. It goes in a 9 by 13 pan. I can cut it up and put it in the freezer. And then after a long day of work, if I want to sit on the patio and have a cup of hot coffee and a dessert, eat snacks. I mean, we are in snack season. So, way this goes, I've got 3 cups of flour in here, and I could do this in the food processor. I'm going to do it by hand just because. So, to the flour, you are going to add, I got my recipe out here right, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And make sure your baking powder is fresh. This is non-aluminum. There's no aluminum in it. 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And I use a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. And cardamom would be good in here too. I was at the spice store yesterday picking up a few things and I was shocked at the price of cardamom. So stir that around and get it all mixed. And then you're going to add 1 cup of butter. And it's just cut up in pieces. And put that in the sink. Let me get a towel for my hands. And then I'm going to start cutting that in. And this takes about 5 minutes. I've got the butter kind of cubed up, or it's not incorporated. And I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar and a 1/2 cup of white sugar. And then I will carry on. Okay, I have this all mixed together quite nicely. It looks like sand. That's the best way I can describe it. Wash that off. Now, I'm going to do a little improv. These are my last year's strawberries. I pulled them out of the freezer. You can add these frozen directly to the whole mix, but I thought them out last night and then I drained the juice off, and I'm going to use the juice for something else. The recipe calls for a 1/4 cup of milk. I don't drink milk. I have almond milk, which should have been a fine substitute. I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of the juice left over from the strawberries. I have 1 egg. Fern gifted us with an egg. And I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of vanilla. And then I'm just going to whisk those together. And then I'm going to pour it in this bowl. It smells so good. I had such a good strawberry crop last year, so I'm getting down to the end, and this is such a great way to use up last year's strawberries to get ready for this year's strawberries. And make your own vanilla. It tastes better. I think it's the way to go. Now, the way my mom used to do this, and she would only use strawberries. She would not use rhubarb. I don't know if she didn't like rhubarb, but dump that in. And then she would just mix it with her hands. I am going to start with a wooden spoon. And this gets really crumbly. It's a real dry mix. And then once you get it so it's not so sticky, now I'm going to go ahead and you're not kneading it, you're just incorporating. So you want to get the stuff from the bottom. I try to make things with my hands on the days I'm not gardening. So my hands are good and clean. it looks like it's shaggy. That's the best way. If you make bread and they talk about shaggy dough, this is kind of what this reminds me of. And then once you get it to this point, you are going to remove 2 cups. You're going to reserve 2 cups. This looks pretty good. Make sure you get the stuff on the bottom. And that is, like, this is going to be your crumb on the top. I have my oven preheating at 350 degrees, and I've lined a 9 by 13 pan with parchment paper. And you're going to take your remaining, it's not a dough, it's a crumb, and you're going to pack it in. And just use your hands. You don't need anything. You can use a spatula if you want to, but just make sure it all goes in the bottom here. And that's pretty good. And I pack it down pretty tight because when you slice these bars, you want them to stay put. Okay, this is all pressed into the pan. It's nice and firm. This is 2.5 cups of rhubarb and 2.5 cups of strawberries. And to that, I am going to add a 1/2 cup of sugar. That's like too much sugar for me. And 1 tablespoon. I'm out of arrowroot powder, so I am using cornstarch. And that's just going to thicken it up a little bit. And you're going to mix all this together. And you're going to pour it over your crust. This smells like spring. Okay, so I have a nice even layer. Remember that 2 cups we reserved? I'm going to sprinkle this over the top. Personally, I'd rather have more fruit than crumble. But this is the first time this year I'm making this recipe, so it's about an even match. A little more crumble to fruit. All right. Then to this, I'm going to add oats. I'm going to put 1 cup of oats in. And I'm using old-fashioned oats. And I'm using gluten-free oats. Then you want to press everything in. If you don't, when you go to bite into it, all this stuff's going to crumble off. It'll be a messy eat. So that's it. That is as simple as it is. Now I'm going to pop it in the oven for about 50 minutes and at 350 degrees, and then I'll take it out and show everybody how it looks.